Shane's Ribshack for Thursday. Back football in focus for another week, and got some good guests today. We're going to talk some softball in the beginning, do some football maybe a little bit later on during the show. Got some Northern Guilford players coming in, and a few other people coming in as well. Going to start out with Ethan Albright today. Big Ethan's with us here, the head coach of the Page girls softball team, among other things. And how did you get involved in coaching softball?
Well, it was one of those things where I've got daughters, and I watched them go out and play and compete. And I guess I kind of meddled enough where I didn't agree with how they were being coached all the time. And finally, they just said, if you're so good at it, you do it.
Oh, that's good. That's
and I said, I'll take a shot at it.
They threw the challenge your way then?
I accepted the challenge.
Yeah. How do you pull it all off? I mean, how have you pulled it all off? Because you've had quite a illustrious career, I guess you might say. All the sports you played, the teams you've been involved in over the years. On the field-wise, how did you pull it all off? Because probably some of the things you've done, you probably have tried to send those towards your team too.
Well, what I'm trying to do is in softball, teach the girls to respect their teammates, respect themselves, and have fun playing the game. Those were the things that I learned in sports that have carried over after sports for me. And I think being a part of a team sport is a privilege. And if you treat it the right way, you can get a lot of benefits from being a part of it.
Now, you had a lot of success. Now that your team, is the team starting to see some of that success? You've been in now, 2 years? This will be your third year coming up?
No, this will be my second year coming up.
First year was last year.
First year was last year, and I inherited a group of high achievers. The old coach was April Kotz is the IB stats teacher over at Page, and she had high expectations on the academic side of things, and I'm benefiting from the hard work that she laid out there. And it's a highly motivated group, and hopefully the academic success will turn over to some athletic success.
And that's kind of what we're highlighting tonight, too, as much as the softball team's success in the field and the wins and losses and the way the team's improving skills-wise, because we get so caught up in that. But we got to get caught up in the academic levels, too, because this team, the GPA was somewhere around 4.25, some in that neighborhood. Because I was thinking today, your GPA is higher than your ERA, and that's pretty darn good. So what was the GPA? Give us the news, because you received some accreditation, received some awards and recognition. You got the certificate with us too. That's nice.
I'm a member of the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association.
I saw that online. It looks better even in person.
It's one of the biggest national groups for softball coaches. They've got Division I, II, and III coaches that are members. They've got junior college, high school. They've got a travel ball group. And across the country, as I understand it, there's 600 or so high schools across the country that are members in this group. And we were number 4 in the country for our team weighted GPA division, which was a 4.285.
And I didn't do too bad off memory. I was thinking about a 4.25 and a 4.285, not bad at all.
Pretty smart group. I'm a little intimidated because my grades were never above a 4.0. I never had that kind of academic background.
Well, I saw the young ladies when they came in, and I said, these look like athletes. They also look like they're pretty intelligent, too. You can always sense the smartness sometimes coming through these kids. And are these the kind of softball players that comes natural for them in the classroom and on the field, or there's a lot of work goes in all this?
Anytime you have high achievers, there's a lot of work that goes in it. They really enjoy.
What you got to probably learn to do is just like athletics, I guess, from an academic standpoint. You got to learn how to train and kind of work yourself into a certain routine, the way you study, the way you train. After that develops that way, then you got to get used to that. You don't go home and struggle, because I've seen students over the years, they go home, take a book, and they fall asleep laying in the book asleep at night. But some students get that routine, no matter how to study, it just carries right on over to have success.
And there's no doubt there's a lot of parent support that are pushing the girls to achieve. And there's a lot of self-motivation in this group where they get an assignment and they attack it. And we're trying to bring that kind of mentality to the softball field. Because when you're a high achiever, hey, that work ethic carries over in anything that you do.
Sure, and there's a lot of ways you can kind of transcend both of these two, the classroom and the field, because they show up on time for practice, going to show up on time for class. If they work in the classroom, they take care of the assignments and work hard in practice. It all kind of goes together.
It's amazing how well it goes together. The best players on our team a lot of times have the highest GPA because they work hard in the classroom, they work hard on the field. Some of the girls with the lower GPAs are the ones that show up late. They don't put in the extra hitting time. They don't do the extra stuff to try to get better, so we try to help them compete, not only on the field but in the classroom as well.
What you like about it too academically, if you get a few in your team that are into the books, in the classroom, and they maybe get somebody on the team that's struggling a little bit, and they start to help them out a little bit too. It's always good as players to say, I'll help this kid out because they're struggling in the classroom, maybe some of the assignments they've had problems with. And there have been times a player would say, hey, you're on your own, buddy, you do it yourself. But if you get a good group, good core group together that's going to help each other, look out each other, and they start to take pride and say, let's keep that 4.285 up, let's maybe raise it a little higher, we're number 4 in the country, right?
number
Let's
4 in the country.
Why not become number 1? So they start to work with each other.
Exactly right. There's always somebody better. There's always another mountain to climb, and we can't stop and pat ourselves on the back for a little success because there's somewhere else that we want to go.
That to me looks about as good as the scoreboard will look over at, say, Page. When you look at one of your team's games, you love to see those numbers, those academic numbers, because that's where it all begins. That's what's going to get you to the next level. And then if you, like you say, you take that and put that into play on the field, it all carries together.
Well, there's a lot of girls that dream about playing in college, and now the ESPN's showcasing so many more softball games, but it's so hard to be a Division I college athlete. I got very lucky. I had some natural gifts.
That's what I was asking. How'd you put it all together? Because you're fortunate, because everywhere you turned, because you played football, I think you played basketball, you played baseball, you played all three. And even basketball, back when you were younger, I think you skipped, I'm going to do all these little numbers on you, get back more toward the softball, but I think in all-star games-wise, you skipped the football game, did the basketball game, didn't you?
I did.
That's what I thought.
Basketball was my first love. It was a lot of fun, and I knew that would be my last basketball game ever. But I was lucky. I was 6'6". I had some gifts, and I could do some things just because of my size that other kids couldn't.
And your size has changed, because back when you were younger, you were always 6'7", so now you're kind of scaling it down an inch as you get older, too.
Some of that might have been for a recruiting advantage to try to push it a little bit.
That 6'7" always looked good, though, man. That height, and you came out of high school maybe like as a tight end, you go to college, become a lineman. Just like your softball players have had to evolve on the field, you kind of evolved when you were going through your game too. You went from you kind of kept moving down the line from tight end onto the tackle or guard and on the center.
And that's one thing I've drawn on to help coach the girls is I try to teach them, hey, more than one position. The more you can do to help the team. Yeah. What if our first baseman gets hurt and nobody else ever played first base? So we move girls around a lot to expose them, and at the end of the day, hey, you're a better second baseman if you know what first baseman's responsibilities are, and you're a better outfielder if you know what shortstop's got to do. So we try to move them around and play them in multiple spots for that very reason. My experience was, hey, I was going to be a basketball player. Then it was going to be a tight end. Wound up being a lineman and turned into a long snapper. So you never stop learning in sports. You never stop learning in the classroom, and those are the things that we're trying to carry over here at Page.
Yeah, you probably don't have them in front of you. Maybe you have an idea, but I bet the players on your softball team probably have a pretty tough schedule of classes too. I'd almost imagine a lot of advanced placement classes, these college prep classes. That's certainly taking a heavy load, and a lot of all these honor classes.
We've got a core group of girls that are in the IB program, which is the highest academic track. It's quite a workload, and I'm impressed that they're able to balance it. Towards the end of the season, we have to tail back practice a little bit, some of the hours that I'd like to be on the field, just so they can get their work done and be properly prepared for their exams.
You had it all coming at you when you first took the job, though. Now you've been there 1 year. You start your second year this coming year at Page as the girls' softball coach, Ethan Albright. When you come in wearing that red and white, it always still gets my attention, knowing you from the blue and white of Grimsley, the darker blue than the light blue and white from Carolina. You had to adjust, too, I'm sure, just going into a different personality mode, becoming a red and white man.
You know, I was a little on eggshells over there at first because I wasn't sure how it would be received, that I was trying to get my foot in the door at Page. But Rusty Lee and Principal Faison have been fantastic to me. They've given me some tools. We've got some new dugouts up on our field, and the art department's going to come up and paint the big Page and Pirates on the back of the dugout, so everybody driving down Cone Boulevard will be able to see our softball field up there and the improvements that we're making.
Now, a lot of it had to do with your children you mentioned earlier. How did you, again, fall in love with softball? Because, I mean, your time was spent doing football, and it's good. Your kids should feel good about this, too. You taking that kind of interest in them, but you could be spending more of your time even now if you were not coaching softball, more maybe studying football, becoming a football coach, a basketball coach, but you chose softball.
Well, one of the greatest gifts the NFL gave to me was time with my family. Most of the people that I've talked to said, Ethan, it goes by fast. So I'm trying to be involved in what they're doing, not dominate them, and I don't have to do this so they can succeed and survive at it, but I'm trying to give them a good environment, teach them a love of the game, and you know, my kids they had to play sports. I didn't care which sport it was, but they had to be involved in a team sport because it teaches so many qualities that will carry over into their work life after sports are over for them. And softball seems to be the one right now that is very interesting to them, has caught their attention, and I'm just trying to help them achieve.
Don't you have a son in one of the football games this Saturday?
I've got one that plays for the Lewis Center Mites and one that plays for the Lewis Center Pee-wees.
So you got them in both games,
So I've got them in both games going for the city championship.
City and championship. Saturday, it's going to be Lewis versus Warnersville in the Pee Wee game, and Lewis versus McLeansville, the Mike game, 11 a.m. and 12:30 at the J.C. Park. I think Stanley Field, Bondura Field, the two fields there Saturday. And, I mean, you've taken an interest in that too, I guess.
I'm just a dad in that sport now. They've got a guy, Coach Stanley over at Lewis Center, has been coaching. When I first brought my son Lawson to him several years ago, he said, Ethan, I remember playing against you in the 1979 City Championship. You caught a touchdown.
Coach Stanley.
And beat us 13-7. I played for the Green Valley Gators.
So you played against Coach Stanley.
I've gone against all the rivalries that I played at. Being a Grimsley guy, now I'm at Page. I'm from a Duke family. I went to Carolina, and I'm a Green Valley Gator, and now I'm at Lewis Center.
So you loved it, because to remember your old teams like that, you loved it even back when you were a kid. You soaked all that in coming up as a kid.
Oh, yeah, you just played. I had a good group of friends that when we got up in the morning, we went out at breakfast, and we played all day, and we came home at night for dinner.
Did that include your brothers a lot, too, so even though they were older?
That was one of those days. My older brothers, they always needed an extra player. And, Ethan, you got to come play with us, and you better help us win.
So you got better as time went on out of necessity.
Yeah, well, I benefited from playing with older kids a lot. There's no question.
You got a brother named John. You had one named Eric and one named Stuart.
My oldest brother, John, played basketball at Memphis State. My older brother, Eric, is now an attorney at Smith Moore and played baseball at Duke. And my older brother, Stuart, just got reelected for another term as a Superior Court judge.
I voted for him, too.
I appreciate that.
It was a tough decision, though.
Appreciate that.
I think he was the only name on the ballot that
He
day.
played football at Duke.
Yeah, he was a good one, too. He played a little basketball, too, didn't he?
He did at Grimsley.
Yeah.
Back then, we were all multi-sport athletes. You didn't have the year-round pressure, and I really enjoyed.
How do you like the way that's changed? I mean, over the years, you
I hate it. I'm fighting against it.
All the travel teams down, the specifications. You play this one sport, you need to be in the gym year-round in this one particular sport. So
I'm fighting it hard. I've given into it. Now I play more than I used to year-round because you got to keep up. But I push multi-sports. I coach a travel team, and I push the girls to play volleyball or basketball. Do
you
something
had some
over
daughters
the
involved in volleyball this year, didn't you?
I did.
You guys
Great.
had a banquet
Gracie,
maybe last week.
Gracie is a member of the volleyball team at Page. They just came off their second round of the state tournament. Had a very successful season there.
Not bad at all. And you mentioned, too, the softball team plays during the spring, and you guys also play that travel ball during the summer, too, then.
We do.
Do you run into Coach Hessenthaler's daughter, Anna, out there some?
Fritz is the coach of my daughter's travel ball team.
He coaches your daughter's team?
Fritz and I played.
I knew he coached some. That's interesting.
Oh, he's big into it. He's one of my mentors in the softball world, and he and I played together at Carolina.
Yeah, I knew he was was he a long snapper also?
He was a long snapper at Carolina. We crossed paths while we were there.
Interesting.
And,
I knew
he's got
there.
3 daughters, and like me, he felt like he could help push them in the right direction better than what we had watched, and got involved with our daughters. And at the end of the day, it's pretty neat for a dad and a daughter to have that bond through sports.
I know they've got things well put together at Southeast Guilford, but I guess if there was a need, he could actually probably coach that girls softball team in Southeast.
I think he would enjoy it. I think
that'd be an interesting combination, a football coach and a softball coach combo. That'd be an interesting coach combo there too.
It's a very different mentality to have when you're coaching a group of guys and you got a group of girls. They're all athletes.
Yeah, they are.
There's just different ways to trigger them, I believe.
Different mentality, totally. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But Coach Fritz's daughter, Anna, does a very good job. I guess that's one of the things, too, for the competition level. You've got a very intelligent team with that 4.285 GPA. Now, do the girls able to go to the computer and do some study and research? Can they research a way to find out how to beat this Southeast Guilford team or this Southern Alamance team?
That's a tall task.
That's tough.
That takes work on the field, and just to get them playing more. Certainly that's one of our goals, we've got some work to do before we can get there.
Tell you what, they lost Kara Shutt. She went on to Elon to play, but I think they've still at Southeast. I think they've still got Anna. They've still got Emma Struth or Strauss. She's still there, I believe.
They've got Anna Hessenthaler and Fritz's younger daughter, Gabriella, is going to be at Southeast, who is an outstanding ball player. And they've got a girl, Emma Strauss, that she will not see a strike from the Page Pirates. When she comes up to bat,
not gonna let her hit
I'm
it
giving
all.
her first base every time because she's dangerous the way she swings the bat.
She's got ladies on base in front of her. You're talking trouble right there, I'm sure.
She's trouble anytime she's up to bat.
She may be as good, if not better. I mean, they're both in the same neighborhood with Kara Shutt and the girls they've had in recent years at Southeast, because she's already committed to Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech, they've had a run of girls that are motivated and are good at the game, and that's makes it fun to coach.
Now, they played a team a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that team out of Alexander Central. It's one of the top teams in the nation. They came in
They were
Southeast.
number 1 in the nation.
Yeah,
last
I knew
year.
they were tough. Yeah.
Now, Alexander Central, they've got a group now. They've got about 8 or 9 Division I players on their high school team. They've got 4-hour practices every day and Saturday down there. There's the rumor that goes on about their program. And Monty Sherrill's an outstanding coach. He develops the girls that come into his program.
Here's your question, too. We'll get some more in here with Ethan Albright with us. Shane's Ribshack for Thursday. Football in Focus. Going to get softball in focus. Going to talk a little bit tonight, too, with Gracie and also Caroline. They'll join us in just a couple of minutes. But from your standpoint, this is just my own curiosity. Do you see yourself just staying coaching the softball? Do you think you're getting to coach some of those other sports later on?
Well,
or does it kind of coach the softball kind of something a little more fun to do, knowing you're not coaching those other sports you were so serious about, man? That's the difference, too.
Well, that's one thing. Anybody that you've probably read about, a lot of guys that played in the NFL, retired, and fell flat on their face.
Yeah.
You're looking for that high-level competition, and to get into youth sports is a reminder to me that everybody's not going to be a professional athlete. So I'm kind of reprogramming myself.
Keeps you humble, I'm sure.
On how to achieve in sports where I keep it fun, but hold a high standard to achieve. And I don't know how long I'm going to be the softball coach. I enjoy it. My daughters enjoy it. If I take the fun out of it for them, I have to get out of it.
Sure.
But for right now, I'm really having fun seeing what we can build over at Page High School. Rusty Lee's made a commitment to the softball team with the dugouts. The Booster Club has helped put up on the field, and hopefully we can put a team out there that everybody be proud of in Greensboro.
They got the same deal in softball, I guess they do in baseball, the 10-run rule after 5 innings if another team gets in the lead.
They've got the mercy rule in effect.
Mercy rule.
They do.
How do you handle that? That's got to be tough because here you are a football player. You could put the mercy rule upside some guy's head, do it physically, but you get in a softball game, you get down, and then they started doing this doing football. I saw last week where they run the clock in the fourth quarter if a certain team gets a lead. I was telling the guy I was with, that's kind of tough for me to take. If I'm even on a losing team, because you remember those old basketball games you played in? If I'm playing a guy we're playing to 16 points, I lose 16-0. I don't want to walk away. I want to keep playing. But how do you handle something like that? That's different for you, too.
I want the girls to be disappointed. Yeah. I want it to motivate the girls. Right. If it happens to us, I want them to be able to see, hey, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes there are bad matchups, especially in the high school world. But I want them to see what competition is, and if we don't want to get run ruled, which I hope they don't, I want them to see we got to go practice. It's fun, but sometimes it can be fun on the weekend to go out there to the batting cage and get some extra practice in and just play and call your friends and let's go make a day of it so we can avoid getting run ruled.
And here's the conclusion I've got to come to, having watched you and kept up with your career all these years, and carrying over to the girls. We got to realize this. We got to get to this conclusion. It's not about you. It's about the girls. So your team losing in a mercy rule game doesn't have to be about you. It's got to be about the young ladies. They've got to come first.
It does. Yeah. And I've got to make sure that they're into it as much as I'm into it, because I love competing. I love being into it. But last year, there were some times where I felt like, man, I'm too into this. I'm into it. It means more to me than it does to the girls, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
So I've got to keep working with the girls' mentality of, hey, during our season, hey, it's about softball. Let's see what we can get done. Let's accomplish it. Let's make it important. And when the season's over, we'll step back and get away from it.
What are you doing now during the off season, or what are the girls doing? They go to the batting cages during the fall and during the winter and keep up, and they got to do you have like a typed out training program they're working on right now, or they just take a little time off?
I sure hope they're working out.
You hope they are.
No, in October we were able to have a little fall league down in the southeast here, down at Pleasant Gardens. We were able to play some.
That's a good area there.
We're currently now in a dead period, so I can't work with them. But my hope is they call each other and they get together and work on their own. Anytime they want to work out together, they're allowed to if it's fun and they can do it. The dead period ends about December 1st. I was hot and heavy last year to get in and do some workouts in December. What I learned is that the holidays are on the girls' minds.
Yeah,
so probably won't do that this year. We'll get together after all the holidays are over. We'll get pitchers and catchers working together and work hitting once a week or something to try to gear up for the season.
But I guess they can go to the cages and do a little bit here and there and do any kind of little weight program they've got, kind of stuff like that.
When I was coming along, they didn't have all these private groups. Now you got Alan Ashkenazi runs the batting center out on High Point Road. A lot of the girls go there. So they got the batting cage, they got instructors that can help you. But they've got places like that popping up all over that are extremely helpful. If a girl's motivated, or a boy, anybody that's motivated can find some help and learn the proper techniques to go play.
You got no problem with that at all. As long as they're getting the proper techniques, that's what you want.
As they're being
you don't want to go back and recoach what they may have learned.
As long as they're being taught the proper fundamentals.
Because there are about people now who've got these setups in their basement. They've got these batting cages in their basement. They've got these guys training downstairs in the basement places.
Is that wrong? I might have a garage that's got a lot of that stuff in it at my house.
Yeah, the sleepover is not a bad idea. But I hear about that too. Though it happens quite a bit. And some guys actually, I think, are doing that. Like the personal trainers, they didn't have that back when you were a kid coming up, did they?
No, that was not the thing. You learn by playing with your older brothers and playing with the older kids, and you learn from the school of hard knocks.
I was going to say, you took all the knocks back in the day. You learned the hard way, which is probably the good way. But there have been a lot of changes over the years, and you got to adjust all these changes. From the football standpoint, are you guys feeling good about what's going on now with your team down in Chapel Hill? I know you had a big win at Virginia, then took the loss, I guess, at Miami last week, kind of some ups and downs, and there's a lot of adjustments to make there too.
Well, it's interesting. Back in July out at Grandover, at the kickoff media day, Coach Fedora got up in front of everybody and said, hey, I'm excited about the season because we've got so many young players. I don't know what we're going to get. They've got lots of talent, but they're on kind of a roller coaster right now where one or two games they look electric. They look like they're hitting and doing what they need to do, and they pull out the victories.
Some games of Marquise Williams, you start seeing him play, you think this guy's going to leave after his, his junior year? He's ready to go.
And then there's some other games where they look like you're scratching your head. I mean, and that part of that is the youth. Part of that's all the other obstacles that are in Carolina's way right now. And they got
what are you doing to get T.J. Logan jump started? What are you doing to keep him going?
Keeping him healthy, man.
Yeah,
when he's healthy, man, he can fly.
He loves to. I mean, this year it seems like he loves to lower the shoulder and hit the opposing player, and the tackler trying to take him down. He's going into the defender a lot more.
He's much more physical.
Because he said he used to try to put the move on to get by the guy. He said he can't do this much in college. He's got to go through the man a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, it's fun to watch him develop. This year, much more physical running back, and he's going to continue to be a good player for the Tar Heels.
What's your case right now? I guess Elijah Hood's out with injury. Is that right?
He is, and they don't give a whole lot of information on those injuries.
Right.
Hopefully, he'll be back soon.
And Roman Morris has got to sit out 1 week that he probably had last weekend. So at least TJ and Chris Francis, I guess, that tailback spot.
And still, tailback was one of the deepest positions on the Tar Heel roster. So
that's why I may not be a football genius, but the coaches, you kind of say this, why are they getting all these guys? TJ's going there, Chris Francis going there, you got Elijah. You can never have enough of those running backs.
In football, you're always one play away from being a starter. One injury happens here, somebody makes a mistake here, and you move right up the chart. And when you get your chance, you got to take advantage.
Who do you guys have next?
We got Pittsburgh coming to Chapel Hill.
Okay.
We got the bye weekend this week, but James Conner coming to town is going to be another challenge.
He ran so hard against Duke. It's like he ran right through those Duke guys a number of times. They couldn't stop him, but I guess the fortunate thing for Duke was they outlasted Pittsburgh that game.
There's no doubt. And James Conner reminds me a lot of old Natrone Means. He's a built, strong guy that can run, break tackles, and it's going to be a tough challenge.
Now, your football now pretty much takes most of your time on the weekends, I guess, these days.
It does, and as you know, there's preparation to do during the week. I'm not in Chapel Hill. I don't get to interact with the players as much as I'd like to, but for me, I'm a Tar Heel, man, and it's a lot of fun to get to go down and have a great seat for the games and get to talk football.
Yeah, you have a lot of fun with Jones Angel and Lee Pace. I guess he's on the sideline. You guys all work well together. I think I've listened to you some this year, and opposed to last year, you've come a long way. You're getting better and better at this. So you're starting to feel good about it now, too. More comfortable back there.
Getting a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
First time you get the microphone in your hand, it's very different than being a player because you don't know how in-depth to speak.
How much they want.
In the listening crowd.
Right.
I can talk about twists and stunts and zone dogs, and half the people aren't going to have any idea what I'm talking about.
I heard a guy the other night on a football game, he went this little China route. China race, that's a little 3-yard route. Guys, I've never heard of that before. So
there's all kind of different terminology to call different
crazy
reps.
Stuff. Crazy stuff.
3-step drop's still the same. A 5-step drop. A 4-3 versus a 3-4. That's in college football. That's getting to be a thing of the past with these fast-paced offenses.
And the thing I liked you came up with the other week, I still remember from that one game you had against Virginia. You kept talking about the difference. You look at the scoreboard, you wouldn't believe how this game's going because of the time of possession. Because I think Virginia had the ball about 30 minutes, Carolina about 10 minutes, and you had brought that point up and drove that home. And then I went to the other room and watched a bit on the television and watched the TV version. The guy was saying the same thing you just said. So, hey, that's not bad.
Well, the football that I was raised on, the game does change. But I was always taught there's a series of stats you track. Time of possession was a big one because if we've got the ball, they can't score with it.
Right, yeah.
And there's a whole series of stats you track offensively and defensively to help you win on the scoreboard. But Carolina's got a thing when they can score from anywhere at any time. So time of possession doesn't mean quite as much for the Heels as it did when I
They can
played.
do more in 5 minutes. Some teams can do in 25 minutes because of the pace, the way they run so fast.
And they have got some guys. Switzer can score from anywhere. Marquise can score from anywhere on the field.
That Hollins kid has been
And
the
Mac
bright surprise
Hollins
this year. I think
has
I've really
been
been surprised at
fantastic.
that.
He's made some circus catches and ran for touchdowns.
And how about this kid? I know we're talking a lot about football. We're going to get Caroline and also Gracie in soon here too. But what about this kid, Austin Prohl, who's doing some things for you guys?
He's
for a freshman. He's showing himself
He
pretty
seems
well.
to be a lot like his father, where when they throw it to him, he catches it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have Switzer's breakaway speed, but he gets the job done. He produces when the ball goes his way.
Pretty scrappy kid too, I guess.
He's a tough kid. He's not the biggest kid out there,
Yeah.
but man, he doesn't back down from anybody.
Getting some very good time for a freshman too.
He's working his way right in the lineup.
And you guys have Pittsburgh next, and then
we've
you still got Duke and NC State,
We
I
got the
guess.
Thursday night game against Duke, and then we got to finish the season with State.
You got after the Pittsburgh game, you got pretty much your season is there in front of you right there.
Anytime the Tar Heels beat Duke,
Yeah.
that makes it a good season.
It's not going to be easy anymore. It used to be something almost, at times it was almost like a given. You beat them in a given year, but these days, not at all, because Duke has improved a lot. Duke's not still a, I might use this term in football, the sexy team people might want, but they're very manageable team. It does such a good job taking care of business. They do their job and take care of things.
Cutcliffe does an outstanding job developing players and convincing them not to beat themselves. They don't have the silly penalties. They don't make a lot of turnovers. They wait for the other team to make the mistakes, and more times than not, they do.
Kind of like your softball team, I guess, some ways. You try to coach those girls. They've got the academics to play smart, don't make the mistakes, don't make the errors, and let's get this thing going 1, 2, 3 and get out of this inning and get back to the plate.
Really what we try to work on is putting the ball in play on offense. The short game's a lot of fun in softball. Just put it in play, make the other team make the mistakes. And when we're on defense, we work a lot in practice on making the routine play. It's not routine until you get the out. Just make routine ground balls, routine fly balls, make them. Then if we can dive and make a play, do something extra, that's a bonus.
What did the team record come out to last year somewhere in the neighborhood?
Our final regular season record was 8-8. After the playoffs, we finished up 9-10.
No, that's not bad. That's something you can work with right there. You love to be 8-8 your first year because, I mean, we're at even keel. We can go up. That's where we go
And we've
up.
got a really fun, nice little core group. Gracie and Caroline were all conference players last year, and Kelly Lewis was our team MVP. She'll be a junior this year, and Angela Lyles are going to be our lone returning senior at
What
this
happened to
point.
the Green girl? She graduated?
She graduated, is playing at Guilford College.
Haley Green, right?
Haley Green was fantastic. She was a great leader for us. 6.0 GPA. Smart as she can be. Great family. It was a heartbreak that she tore ACL during the season last year.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, she just got medical clearance to get out and go full go again. And we're pulling for her to do great things.
It's good to have one of your players going to college, too. That makes you feel good.
She doesn't know it yet, but we're going to invite her back frequently to come share what she's learned with high school.
6.0 GPA. It makes you wonder what kind of weighted. She had to take some heavy weighted classes there.
Well, she was straight IB program, and I'll be honest, she intimidated me. I never knew anybody with a 6.0 GPA.
I don't know how you get that unless you.
So I have to be very careful how I talk to this group because they're so smart. They can see through faking it real quick.
Yeah, they're pretty smart. No doubt about that. And she must have been having to go over to Cambridge or Oxford or somewhere, take overseas classes to get the GPA that high.
They're just very highly motivated.
Was she like in the early college or something like that? Or
No, she just straight in that IB program. All her classes were in the IB track, and those were more heavily weighted classes, and straight A's in all of them.
Now here's your big question, Sue. How do you make this team get better this year in the academic area? How do you get better there?
We put it up on the wall. Last year's team GPA was this, 4.285. How can we improve on that? Just like last year's team finished the regular season 8-8. There were a couple of games that we felt like we could have won and made too many mistakes. How do we finish up 10-6 or 11-5 and improve on that? And really, just like in the classrooms, focusing on the fundamentals, I think, was what'll get us there.
Tell you what, you take that 8-8. That's regular season, right?
Regular season.
You take out from that, you're talking half of those losses, probably 2 losses to Southern Alabama, that's 2 to Southeast. You got to get a split with those guys to really dig into that overall.
We competed with them. In the 5th inning last year at Southeast, we were winning 6-5.
In the 5th inning?
In the 5th inning. However, when it rains, it pours, and we wound up getting mercy ruled that game.
Wow.
A couple things
It can
went
happen
wrong.
so quick on you, too.
The momentum changes and confidence gets into play, and when you lose a little confidence, Then you make a couple of routine plays they turn into errors, and it kind of steamrolls quickly. Southern Alamance, we played them a 9-4 game at Page, and then went down to Southern Alamance and took it on the chin. So
it was 15-5 type games. Right?
It was.
You think about that. It's kind of a crazy thing. You talk about Metro 40 Conference sports. There's a lot alike in some different sports because you got, I mean, you hate to say it, this is the way it is. I mean, the baseball is a lot like that, too. I mean, Southeast and Southern Alamance toward the top. Then you got the guys. Grimsley pulled it off last year. Coach Eggers had got that conference championship. But they kind of get the guys at the top, then the guys kind of fall in the middle, and then the guys kind of fall toward the bottom.
Well, and that's why we don't judge really our team's success on wins and losses. We know there's some matchup problems along the way. Did we have a season where we respected ourselves? Did we have a season where we respected our teammates? And did we learn how to come out and play our best when we didn't feel like it? Because you're going to have to do that in the job someday.
No doubt about it.
And I'll be honest, some of the girls don't really care for me.
That's a good thing, too.
Shockingly.
That's a good thing, too.
However, someday you're going to have a boss that you don't agree with, and if you don't do your best, well, somebody else is going to get your job.
Yeah, if you ever want to be the boss, you got to be able to work with the boss.
They've got to learn that, hey, if you love the game, you don't have to love the coach or love everything about it, but you still have to come and play your best because you have some personal pride, and you owe it to your teammates to come out and play your best. And
it's going to take a job, though. I mean, we got to get your girls in, but we got to finish up with you. But it's going to take a job, somebody to turn that Grimsley program around, the softball right now. It's going to take a lot of work to get that baby headed.
Well, it will take more than just a coach. It will take parents that are involved. It'll take parents that get their kids involved in travel ball and off-season workouts. You can't play during the season and not touch it to the next season.
Yeah, you can't take that time off.
The competition just gets too far ahead of it.
Yeah, but you got Grimsley, you got Smith, you got you guys in the middle and the two teams at the top. That's kind of it's almost like that weighted GPA sometimes those classes. But you got to make sure you beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, and you got to go after. You can't overlook those other guys like Smith and Grimsley, but you got to definitely go after Southeast and Southern Alamance. Got to get those guys.
And early on we're going to try to play a Southwest Guilford and Northern Guilford. Okay. They usually do good things in the state tournament every year.
I think it is out at Northern Guilford's done a very good
Russ
job.
Drell does a fantastic job, as well as John Chambers out at Southwest.
Yeah, John does a very good job. And Northwest Guilford's program, that's a strong program too.
Very strong. We're hoping to get there, but like I said earlier, it's going to take a little work. And if the girls put the time in, they'll get where they want to be.
And that Glenn program's not a sham either. There's nothing shabby about Glenn.
Glenn's fantastic. They do a nice job.
Yeah. Well, let's let one of your girls come in next. Let's get your choice first.
Let's get Caroline Dunn.
Caroline in, okay?